Hey everybody, welcome to Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's another Tuesday, and Tuesdays are coming pretty quickly now, and I'm glad because I look forward to these every Tuesday night.
Me
RhiAnna
too.
is doing her thing. She'll hopefully be back next week. She may even pop in tonight. So, hey, times are tough, and gotta do what you gotta do. So, I'm on here with my other co-host, Miss.
Critty Creep Show. Hello, creeps. Welcome to our Tuesday chit chat sesh.
We have an awesome guest for each and every single one of you guys and gals out there. We have Daniel Benoit, and I like that Benoit. He is the wildlife and Bigfoot researcher and founder of East Coast Bigfoot Researchers, ECBRO, like ECBRO. There you go, ECBRO. We want to welcome him to the podcast.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of Bigfoot related questions to ask him and talk about Bigfoot, all these cryptids, stuff like that. So, also, too, folks, get out and subscribe to our YouTube page, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast YouTube. It's very simple, very quick. Just like it, subscribe, and also to our Facebook page as well. And if you have any questions for Daniel or for any of us, please put them in the chat room, and we'll answer these as best as we can. So, without further ado, Daniel, man, welcome to the podcast, and how you doing?
Oh man, well, thank you for having me, guys. This is awesome. I'm glad to be here, and I'm actually doing much better than I was earlier. I was very exhausted earlier after getting home from work, but a shower kind of woke me up. So let's hope it continues to go that way. So
don't drink a glass of milk, man. You'll be fine. We'll hear them snoring in a minute. So.
Only if it's got cornbread in it. I gotta have milk and cornbread. That's what's gonna get me going. Milk and cornbread, honey.
I got me a 0 sugar root beer I'm drinking right now. So, and I got a bottle of water too. So
there you go. Yeah. So you're the founder of East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. Let's talk about that. What does that entail, and what do you guys actually do?
Well, the ECBRO. Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, that's exactly how I pronounce the initials ECBRO. It's basically how it is. So yeah, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization is something I have established several years ago. First of all, I've been involved with Bigfoot research for over 10 years, but the ECBRO has been around just under 10 years. Close to 10 years now. But I pretty much started off independently. Once I was actually involved with this. I did a lot of research on my own before I went on to establish the ECBRO, and basically it started off. I started off presenting it through social media, and the thing is, when I got on social media for the first time with what I was involved with, I actually was kind of blown away by how many people were actually involved with Bigfoot research.
Yeah.
And I took the time to listen, check things out. I was someone who more or less started off just sitting in on the back seat, in the back of the stage, just observing everybody, listening to what people had to say and comparing it with what I was looking into. And so, yeah, I took note of a lot of different things, a lot of different theories and, allegations, or not allegations, but a lot of different alleged claims. So, and I kind of took it from there and started looking into my own theories, and and then it wasn't until over later the years I started drawing some of my own conclusions. And and for the record, I like to state that my conclusions does not necessarily mean they're facts. They're just things that I believe in with a little bit of concrete. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's your hypothesis. Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Hello.
Absolutely.
Hello, Michael Anthony, who said hello. Good evening, friends in the chat room. So, hello, Michael.
Good evening.
Oh, yes. Michael Anthony is actually a host of a radio show that I'll be on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So, the Dark Radio Network radio show. Yeah.
There you go. Go support him, folks. Yep. Go support him like you support us. So there you go. There's another podcaster that's support. I guess. Whatever. But most importantly, man, Crit, you can jump in here anytime. Don't let me step on your toes. You know that. Yeah. But most importantly, what got you into wanting to research Bigfoot? What was it that sparked your interest, though, that made you want to do this?
Well, to be honest with you, it was like the same thing for many others. Everybody has their spark of curiosity, but mine was the Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin footage. That was the main thing, anyway. You've seen that so many years. It's been around forever, and and then you actually really sit down to pay attention to it, listen to it. What was being said about it, and just all the surrounding details really drawn me in. It really pulled me in. They're like, whoa. From the very beginning, I really believed it was a real flesh and blood creature, or you'll hear me say creature, subject, and everything in between. So Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and then later on, science got involved and tried to debunk it, and they can't debunk it. That even threw some more fire, and so that there was one of the main things that really got me involved, because from that it started that spark of curiosity turned into a passion, and I wanted to learn the truth. I wanted to dig as much as possible. I wanted to get out there and explore more. I mean, I grew up in the woods. I was always familiar with nature and wildlife, and and knowing what to expect from our known species that do exist. So, but this time, it really opened up my eyes and my senses to where I was paying attention a lot more. And, and I'm sure this goes for a lot of people, or anybody that really gets that oomph put into them, it opens up a new door, a new world, I should say. Because, like with your senses heightened, you're really paying attention, you're really observing and really picking up on stuff. And that's how it was for me. I started noticing things that were odd and things that stood apart from what most average person would overlook or just disregard. But yeah, it actually had me looking and really finding things. For example, tracks. I have been finding the foot tracks, and and then the more time I spent in the woods, I started learning. Well, I should say I started experiencing a lot of little things that fascinated me. You get to hear more of the wildlife, and you get to hear of the unknown. Yeah, and the unknown is very exciting. And I like to state for the record, one of the things you'll hear me say the unknown. The unknown is anything that's not recognized or discovered. So I use that term for, it could be Bigfoot, it could be any other cryptid. So, and also one of my sayings or phrase I like to share, throw out there, is learn what is known before seeking the unknown. And and there's so many other phrases and sayings from others that kind of relate to that. In a way, for example, one of the things I like to share a lot is a saying that was once quoted by Les Stroud: is "Don't fall prey to deception." So with my phrase and that phrase, I kind of look at the two or compare the two. First of all, you can't be gullible. You can't assume or just jump on the Bigfoot train on everything you hear or see.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, like I said, know what is known before seeking the unknown. Because if you don't understand your wildlife, if you're not familiar with your known wildlife and all the known species that we do know that exist, something that is known, if you're not familiar with it, is going to be considered unknown to you. But, that's why it's very important for us to pay attention to what we do know and then take it from there. There's learning steps, baby steps, whatever, how you want to call it or refer to it as. But, believe it or not, there's people older than me that are not familiar with, or I shouldn't say not familiar, are just simply misinformed. And I'm not trying to put anyone down, but it's just over the years, my observations, I was kind of very surprised by how many grown adults are not really familiar or they're just simply misidentifying something Because several different species of wildlife, they make all kinds of vocals and tones. Because there's certain common ones that we're familiar with, but then sometimes some of these species are known to have different tones and levels of vocals that we don't always get to experience. So, and then you're out there in the woods, hiking, camping, whatever it may be, and you actually get to witness one of these things. And like owls, for example, oh my goodness, owls will put out some sounds, if you're not familiar with, that will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's
Bobcats
crazy.
too. Like if you hear a
Oh,
bobcat, the scariest thing I've ever heard was a bobcat caterwauling in the middle of the night. It sounded like a woman was being murdered in the woods. Like it was absolutely terrifying.
absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right. I've actually heard a bobcat be, as much I've seen them out there. Oh, I've captured them on cameras and trail cams, but I've only heard a bobcat once, and I knew exactly what it was, but it caught me off guard, and I was like, "Whoa!" At first thought when I first heard it, because it was so close, I was like, "What the?" Was
Yeah.
that? So,
It's like,
but
what's about to come over
yeah,
that
it's pretty
hillside?
cool.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, what's coming over that hillside that I need to be preparing for? Like, should I be helping this person? Is this a person I need to be helping? Like, I had no idea what to expect. And then, of course, my Irish heritage, it's like you hear all this stuff about banshees and all kinds of stuff. If you're out in the woods in the middle of the night by yourself, your mind can really run away with you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. We got some
Absolutely.
people in the chat room here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It looks like Zach Sterick said, howdy, y'all. Zach D. Sterick, team leader of the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters, reporting in. Hello, all. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, Zach is my real good friend and brother from the state of Illinois. Me and my girlfriend, we actually just got back from Illinois with Zach just a little over a couple weeks. Well, it's been about a couple weeks ago. And yeah, we did some camping, and we actually I just got done filming our most recent Bigfoot film documentary. So,
Awesome.
Well,
yeah, with film producer Joe Turry, our film producer, and yeah, it went really well, and it's still in post production. It's getting close to being finished. So,
well, speaking of Joe, he's in the chat too, and he said, "Hey, all, hey, Daniel." So you've got a fan club. You've got a fan club, dude.
Uh-oh. And
yes, well, Zach actually, yeah, he tagged a bunch of people in this under the poster not long ago. So yeah, they're all showing up.
We appreciate it because the more people we get in here, more people knows about Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. It's just a win-win from everybody. And awesome. So,
yeah, for sure.
Michael Anthony also said throughout some Lord of mercy, here I go again. Throughout some shares for you. Have a great show. Thank you so much, Michael.
And then Jessica Morris says,
awesome.
Hello, Zach. Hello, everyone. So, there's quite a few people milling around. So that's great.
So you got something you want to say or anything?
Oh, the only thing that, in reference to what you were kind of talking about earlier, Daniel, talking about folks and, like finding things in the wood and maybe misidentifying things because they're not familiar with, the wildlife in the area. Like, I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with this? Is it Skookum Cast or Skokum Cast? I know that was
Skookum, yes.
Yeah. Like, what were your thoughts on that? Because I know there was some ambiguity there.
That's interesting because my girlfriend just asked me about that yesterday. And Jessica Moore, by the way, is my beautiful girlfriend. I love you, babe. So, yeah, she asked me what my thoughts were on that. And, the thing is, I've known about it. I've seen it before. And I've seen the documentary where Jeff Meldrum was actually part of that, investigation, checking out the cast they actually made of it. I've only found it fascinating. However, I do recall one of the first initial thoughts behind that was they believed it was an elk.
Yes.
Right. And then, but see, it's been so long since I've seen this. I believe they kind of ruled that out. I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. If you know.
They were speaking about the foot, like the tarsals, that it was more indicative of like a primate, because I did see where, they were talking about like it looked like it could be the hindquarters of an elk, because John, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's basically like this big cast, and it looks like the hindquarter and like buttock and leg of like this big thing. And there was a question about, is this evidence of Sasquatch or Bigfoot? And it was a whole big hullabaloo about, is it an elk, or, is it a primate, or what is it? So, that's kind of what I was curious about, because it seems like there's like a right down the middle, either people are like, yeah, I believe this is what it is, and there's an argument about it, or they're just like poo-pooing it and saying, no, it's just an elk.
Yeah.
Right. If I remember correctly, and like I said, with the shape of the print of the print or the cast, they actually tried to match up and line up the anatomy of, a possible elk. And I think it came close to a certain extent, but then again, it was totally off. So I want to recall that they did throw that out, but then again, they can't prove it was a Bigfoot, but there was a good possibility it could have been a Bigfoot sitting or lounging in the mud, in a, whatever odd position, so.
Well, I know when it hits summertime in Kentucky, I wouldn't be hard pressed to sit in the mud myself. So it's not enough. It's like, just get in the mud.
Yeah, that is. I got to know, man, how you learned how to track. How did you find out, specifically how to track these giants? I'm not going to say monsters or anything like that, because we don't know. We don't know how they act. We don't know anything about them hardly.
And it looks like, John, you and Joe Turry are on the same wavelength, because he asked the same thing in the chat.
Yeah, because if somebody wants to actually learn how to do this, you got to learn how. It's just like deer hunting. You've got to learn how to track something. Track it.
Right. Well, there you go. You said it right there, John. And that's exactly where I was going to start with. You got to start with your wildlife. You got to be familiar with, our known species. So, it's just like anybody that's a hunter or a wildlife researcher, you're going out in their home, in their environment, and you want to, look for the signs and get familiar with, okay, well, deer or bear, or get familiar with what their diets are and look for that habitat. You want to know what they're eating on, or what you believe they may be eating on. And those are focus points where you can start doing your research and scouting around, doing some careful observations. And as far as Bigfoot goes, this is one thing I haven't thrown out there in a while, but I like to do a lot of comparisons with black bears, because, here on the East Coast, we have tons of black bears, So, Critty, you said you're in Kentucky?
Yeah, John and I both are in Kentucky, so yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I know there's a lot of black bears there. We're notorious. We got some big ones up here, and I've actually had some close encounters, some close, some distant, but I've come across a lot of bear sign and bear tracks over the years. And I'm going to tell you, bears. The reason I like to compare, because a couple different things. One, their tracks are very similar, and plus they're also misidentified. Their diets are very, I believe, I can't prove this, but I believe that a bear and a Bigfoot's diet is almost similar if you just reverse it. Black bear's diet is basically 80% vegetarian, 20% meat. Now, again, reverse those numbers to a Bigfoot. So, with that being said, I believe they also dwell in the same kind of, habitat areas where, if they are more meat dwelling, beings, like similar. If you want to compare them, a lot of people like to compare them to people like us. But then again, you got to look at their weight. They're believed to be 5 to 900 pounds. Anywhere on average 6 to 8, 9 feet tall, maybe, some bigger, So you think about the mass of the body mass. If they're that big and, they got a lot of muscle or whatever it may be, any creature of any, decent size has calories they need to keep taking in. So You know, they're going to be eating stuff like deer proteins. You know, they need their calorie intake.
Mhm.
You know, I'm sure they snack and eat on vegetation just like the bears do. You know, everybody needs their veggies. so, um, so yeah, I mean, I just think that meat is more in their diet than anything. So, but it goes back to your question as far as tracking. You know, again, you got to look at where these locations and what animals dwell in these areas. That's why a lot of people ask me if they're getting started or involved with Bigfoot research. Believe it or not, when you go in the woods, get Bigfoot off the brain because you're just going to be fooled and deceiving yourself in the beginning. I say that because that's how I was. I was one of those people. And I know how easy it is to fall into that, you know, level. If you're in the woods, you're going to think Bigfoot's responsible for everything you find. You're
Yep.
going to think Bigfoot's on your butt, you know, all the time when you're hearing every little limb snap and every movement. There's all these other animals in the woods that move around and make all kinds of crazy noises and whatever. So, but again, pick an area, learn the area, know the habitat, know the environment, the ecology, you know, and then over time, as you're studying what is known to be living there, the unknown is going to reveal itself in time. You just
Oh
got to
yeah.
learn what is known before you jump on the unknown. So,
Well,
but um, yeah.
I'll tell you good on me when I was deer hunting. God, I was so pissed off after what happened. I am a
Let's
horrible
hear it.
deer
Let's
hunter.
hear it.
Horrible deer hunter. They could be deer in front of me, and I still couldn't see it. But anyway,
Oh
so
man.
yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. I kicked myself.
Well, you know, it's funny that you brought that up, John, because you know, and I've actually tried to make this point before, and well, there was a time in my research area, I was driving up the forest road, and I was just driving real slow. I like to look in the woods while I'm driving out there because you just never know what you might come across, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Right.
Um, so I actually stopped my vehicle one day. This is probably a couple years ago. And I'm stopped there, and, you know, this is probably middle, late summer. And I'm looking up on the hill through the woods, and it's real thick up there. And I'm looking, scanning my eyes, like very carefully. And this one particular area, something caught my attention to look in this area, and I'm staring up there. So why something I don't know, I can't explain it, but something told me to look in this spot. And I'm looking there, and I see the trees, I'm seeing everything, and all of a sudden it came into focus. There was like several deer right in one little cluster staring down the hill right at me because I had stopped. And I never knew they were there. I mean, if I
Yeah.
never stopped to take the time to look, because you know I've walked up on deer as well, and you know they blend in their own environment, and you just you know sometimes you just got to take the time and be super slow and super observant. You just never know.
Well,
I
And
mean,
I think following your senses and stuff too is a big part of that. Because speaking of something very similar, I was visiting my parents in Eastern Kentucky years ago. My dog, of course, wants to go out in the middle of the night. It's like 3 a.m. I'm like walking around, and all of a sudden I got this spooked feeling, and I was like, something is watching me. So I take my cell phone and I flash it up on the hillside, and there was an entire herd of deer. We're talking like 15 deer just all staring at me. And like
I believe it. Yep.
I had no way of knowing they were there. It was just like a feeling like you get sometimes, like something is around, like something's going on. So
but
like paying attention to that.
at least you guys saw the deer. I thought there was a deer coming to me, and it was a freaking ground squirrel messing with me.
Oh,
Ah, so mad. So
John, we
mad.
You
gotta
know,
thank
well, John,
God for save a lot in that instance because you don't want to count on that deer meat, do you?
No.
well, you know, John, I'll be honest. I've made a statement about a squirrel, and how you know this is one of the times I went out hunting, and yeah, every deer hunter knows squirrels are like a deer, you
Right.
know. And the thing is, you know, I could be at, you know, behind my ground blind, and it's quiet out there, and all of a sudden you hear,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know, and that's the thing. Some of it sounds so heavy, depending on how dry the ground and the leaves are, and all of a sudden your heart's starting to pump up. Like, oh no, you might have a shot. You know, there's probably a deer right there coming towards you.
Yep.
And sure enough, you look over, and your disappointment and your heart just sinks because it's just a stupid squirrel pouncing along.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
He had like his own little roadway through there, man. He has his own little den and everything because he was coming behind me. Then all of a sudden I didn't hear nothing. Then I look up in front of me. There he was sticking his head out of the freaking hole. And I was like, you little man.
Yeah, he was like laughing. He was probably laughing at you.
Oh, he
It's like, it's just me.
Yeah,
It's telling its grandchildren about you to this day,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
probably.
We-
I gotta go ahead.
to get caught up on the chat a little bit because we're a little bit behind on the chat. Going backwards a little bit, Zach called you a kiss butt, Daniel, and he said whipped. And then
He called me a what? Kiss butt?
A kiss butt. I guess earlier when you were talking to your girlfriend and you said you loved her. I think that's what he's referencing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm proud of my girl though. I'm proud of my girlfriend.
And you
I love her.
should be. You know, that's how a man should talk about his lady. So Zach also said lots of folks think it's an elk waller. I guess earlier when we were talking about the Skookum cast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Michael Anthony said information is everything.
That's exactly right.
And Johnny Freeman said you have to know nature to be able to find what's not normal, and I think that's spot on.
Very true. Very true.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
John, do you want to get the next one?
Well, I want to ask Daniel a question before we get this one because I want to know, man, when you're out in the woods and you do come across something that you do think that it is cryptid related, what's going through your mind? What are you processing? What are you looking for? Are you still scanning? What are you doing when you find something that possibly could be cryptid related?
Well, that's a good question. You know, something that stands out that you believe could definitely possibly be Bigfoot or cryptid, you're already getting excited. Your adrenaline's starting to flow. But then again, you got to stop. Wait a minute. You don't want to miss nothing. So you have to carefully stop and look around because there may be something else there before you go all the way into it to really examine it. You know, as for example, like I'll see deer kills. I'll see snap twisted limbs of a deer. And, you know, especially if they're fresh, I'm just using this as an example because I have found, you know, deer carcasses and deer limbs twisted and snapped and whatnot. But if you come across a scene where, okay, this doesn't look like it was done by any of these other known predators that I do know that live here, you have to, if you're considering that maybe it was a Bigfoot, you know, just entertain the thought that it was a Bigfoot. If it was freshly done or if it was done, but whatever, you want to look for the other evidence that you might be trampling all over. In some cases, I've heard numerous people say this, and it's true. It's a good idea. I mean, we're not forensic scientists, we're not police, but to the best of your ability, you want to try to act, you know, or treat that area or that scene as a crime scene. You want to like basically square off, you know, you don't have to have the yellow tape and all that mess, but kind of have your own visual of the area and basically observe it for other possible evidence that may be there. For example, you find a structure, you know, there's all kinds of structures. I come across numerous different structures, teepee structures, lean-to shelters, a lot of these, that either if it's man-made or something else made it, you still want to examine it. You still want to take the time to look it over very carefully. And there may be tracks. There may be some kind of indication of what left it there or what was there at some point in time, you know, regardless if it was something recent or maybe something in the past, you know. You know, so yeah, it's just something. Yeah, if you come across something like that, yeah, you're gonna feel excited. But I know for a lot of us that find these kind of things, yeah, we don't think about what I just talked about as far as things in the surrounding area that could indicate or, you know, point towards what created it. Yeah, it's in most cases it's going to be kind of slim to find out what made it, what did it. Unless it is man-made. A lot of man-made objects usually have some form of evidence left behind. I know in the national forest where I find a lot of these man-made ground blinds. Not all of them, but some of them you'll find evidence of a water bottle or some kind of snack or candy wrapper that was left there while they were sitting there waiting on their, during the hunt. I have come across stuff like that, but
Yeah.
but so for a cryptid, you would hope to find maybe a track or something like that, or possibly some hair, So we love finding hair. A lot of us researchers, we love coming across hair. But in my case, when it comes to hairs, I can tell you a majority of the hairs I find, they all are related to something known, like a deer. I come across tons of bear hairs on a lot of broken trees, especially pine saplings that have busted and broke over. I almost guarantee you, if you find a broken tree sapling of a pine, look at it carefully. I guarantee you'll find at least one strand of hair, if not a whole cluster of it. I mean, that's how it works for me. You'll see them. You'll see the hairs. They'll look black. Not all of them will look black. Some of them will be brown, blondish, yellowish, or whatnot, in a combination of all the above. Because a lot of people don't realize black bears, when we look at a black bear, we're seeing them as black. But black bears consist of several different colors in their strands of hair. People don't realize that, especially sometimes on their chest. You might see the white on their chest, but deep down they have a brown fur, because out in other states there's brown bears, but they're also considered to be called black bears even though they're brown.
Yeah.
So same thing with the black bears that we have here on the East Coast. They have the brown fur. It's just not visible to the eye unless you look at it up close and pluck from it. You'll see the different color tones, because one single strand of black bear hair, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they'll start off like a brown, black, or to a white, or revert, whatever, or vice versa. So, but that's one thing. It's very to some people, I know I've seen people collect bear hair and claim it was Bigfoot, without no evidence, because if you send it off, they're not going to tell it. If you send it off for samples and it comes back as unknown, it doesn't necessarily mean it's Bigfoot.
Exactly. Right.
Exactly. It could be contaminated, or they just couldn't simply identify it.
Right.
Because in most cases, when you send off hair samples, if somebody's willing to take the time to analyze it and check it, they're not going to send it to the DNA lab. They're going to at least, one of the first things they're going to do is try to identify it through a microscope. A lot of people don't realize that. Yep. A lot of hairs are automatically identified through the scope. So, but yeah, so that's me.
It always baffles me when I see these documentaries and things like that on Sasquatch, and I'm very interested in it. Like these nests and like these weird tree. I don't know. I call them nests. What I call them. They're so weird, and there's so many branches that are broken off, and I'm like, this has to be man-made, but they're back so far in the woods that I don't know if it is or not. You know what I'm saying? Because it's still, I still have that question of like, I'm on that fence. You know what I'm saying? Like, is this possibly something cryptid wise, or is this somebody messing with me out here just deer hunting or turkey hunting? You know what I mean? So
yeah, I believe it's very controversial when it comes to those. But then again, yeah, like for example, like you said, way out in the woods. I mean, I find that's where I tend to find a little bit more credibility on certain things when I come across them, because when I'm by myself, I have a tendency to go a long ways, and I'll climb a hill or a steep ridge, and I take chances when I'm by myself. When I'm with others, I have to consider their safety and what they can keep up with, and so I feel limited. But so anyway, when I go by myself, I do come across some of the coolest things ever, is because I'm not afraid to go deep into the woods and climb a ridge, and whatnot. And yeah, but when it comes to these nests, I personally can't say I've ever come across one. I've come across what I believe to be shelter type structures, things that were built to possibly hide something, or big enough where there was one in particular. I actually used it on the cover of my latest book. But I believe it was like almost like a teepee structure, but the logs, they intertwine and they went around the whole thing. And
Wow.
basically, yeah, you could go inside. You could probably fit like all of us and plus some in there.
Moonshine
So
still cover up. That's what it is.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and now there's always that possibility. At some point in time, somebody could have gone up on that ridge and
Yeah.
took the time to build it. Say, hey, well,
Yep.
I plan on hunting here in the fall or spring, for turkey hunting. So it could have been. Yeah, I can't rule that out. But at the same time, I found it so fascinating because the area I found this in is not far from other sightings that I've learned from reports. So
There you go.
it's always that strong possibility. It's out of the way. It's up on high ground. It's near a couple different water sources, a lake and and a little stream, and so. But
Hey.
you just never know.
It's like, hey, it's like Eastern Kentucky or anywhere that's got mountains, man. You know this as well as I do, Daniel. The deeper you go, the weirder it gets. That is for sure.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that because it reminds me of a shirt my father said he wants to buy me. He just can't find it in my size. But the shirt says, "What happens in the mountains stays in the mountains."
You know what, man? Hey, holler folk, man, that's legit. You don't
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, it's some crazy stuff. Crit, you want to ask Daniel Zach's question there, Daniel?
Sure. Zach has a couple of things. I'll start with the most recent one. He said, Daniel is a regular rock ape when it comes to climbing rocks. I bear witness to that in no man's land on our expedition. And he also said, tell the audience about the expedition into no man's land, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Go ahead and tell that story.
Well, I tell you what, I don't want to give off too much information or details, only because you guys will have to watch it in the Bigfoot film documentary that we got coming out. Okay. So that's coming soon. So, but I will tell you, it was quite adventurous, and I was, I never been out to the state of Illinois, until this time, and and surprisingly, the terrain where we were camping at in the woods was very similar to what we have over here on the East Coast. So I was very fascinated by a lot of the rock ledges and dens and the small cave structures that we came across. The area it's a lot of thick area in there, a lot of pine, a lot of hardwoods, a combination like what we have here and everywhere else. And but yeah, the whole event was very successful. And we did come across some tracks and possibly a trackway in a couple of different locations. One of them was actually down behind the camp, which was pretty interesting. Yeah, because I think it was the first day after we got set up and settled. We did a little exploring up behind the camp. It's where we came across a few tracks and a couple of interesting formations. And then we actually did, or where was it? Oh, the other day we did did some exploring because me and Jessica, we actually went off on our own, and we just started off going for a walk on the forest road, and then we split off and went into the woods down behind camp. And yeah, we started coming across a lot of interesting things. A lot of known wildlife, a lot of deer tracks, and then we went way in the back off the edge of the field into the woods, and we came across. I was actually very excited to see this, and there was a teepee structure, and teepee structures are one of the ones I do come across. Like I was talking about earlier, I find them fascinating, especially if you take the time to look at them. Something with no doubt, I can't say a Bigfoot did it. You want to believe a Bigfoot did it, but I can clearly say something with opposable thumbs created what we found. So that's another thing that was very interesting about this. And not just that alone, but there was two other odd things right next to it. Your average person would simply overlook these kind of things. sometimes a cluster of trees that are laid down on the ground, crisscrossing each other in a particular formation. Sometimes some of those things might look natural to the average person, but I also believe that they could be forms of markers or other territorial markings. So again, I can't prove it, but when I find structures and formations and cluster patterns, I tend to get a little bit more excited on them. So after observing this, we had radio communication with Zach back at base camp, and all this will be seen on video footage on the film. But it's pretty interesting because I was filming with my camera, and while he was filming with his back at base camp, and of course the film producer was able to put this together, showing our conversation back and forth, which was awesome. He does excellent work, and so he had radioed to Stacy and Ben, who started off down behind camp and worked their way out through the woods to come up, meet up with us to check that out. So, and then they were able to observe it. And then after exploring and checking out and investigating that area, we actually came across one of our trackways. And some of the tracks, they weren't so conclusive, but then again, there was one or two that really stood out. I almost stepped on one. I was like, we were walking along, and then all of a sudden, Stacy behind me halted me. And at that moment, I was about to take a step. When I looked down, there was a track right there. No lie. There was a clear track. Yeah, you could see the whole impression of the heel all the way up to the toe impressions. And yeah, it was something very heavy. That's for sure. A bipedal track.
But here's the $1 million question, though. Did you cast it?
No, we did not. No one here at the kit. Nah, no one had plaster with them. And the thing is, before we left Virginia, when I was loading up my gear, I keep a bag of plaster in the back of my vehicle, and I did not take it with us.
Yeah, that's like going deer hunting, not taking your bullets with you. Shame, Daniel. Shame.
Yeah, but we captured it on film and took pictures, and of course, when it comes to tracks and stuff, I'll be honest with you, and maybe a lot of other people are familiar with this, and sometimes I feel like I have to tell people this but what you see in person with all the details, and you take pictures of them, sometimes pictures and videos don't always do justice, sadly, especially when it comes to tracks, so, but
we got just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. One other thing I was going to mention, and this is all I'm going to say, is when the movie comes out, you guys got to get it and check it out. There's a possibility that we may have captured a Bigfoot on film.
Yes. So where's this going to be? Where's this documentary or film going to be? Like streaming, or where's it going to be available?
I do believe the first place is going to will be sold on Amazon. I think. I don't know a lot of details on that. I haven't asked Joe about that, but he may be able to respond in the chat if he's still watching. Zach may be able to respond, but I believe Amazon is one of the main places where it may be available. You could. So yeah, I believe it'll be available on DVD. So I will see how that works out. I'm not sure exactly how he's going to go about that.
I got a couple more questions. I know that my stupid messenger stuff quit going on. Stop, people. Anyway, I got a couple more questions, and I don't know, Crit does. So we don't care to go over just a little bit with us here, do you?
Stop. Oh no. I hear the noises coming in.
Yeah, man. When I do another podcast and my other thing's blowing up, I'm like, stop.
Well, also the chat's been pretty lively too.
That's good.
So,
that's what we want, folks. We want everybody.
Joe did make a comment about where it's going to be streaming. He said most likely Tubi first and then DVD.
Oh, we're gonna get it.
Oh okay. Yeah. There you go.
So go ahead.
Tell you another video, real quick. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna make mention. There is another Bigfoot documentary I was featured in over about a year ago. It came out, and it is Elusive Legend, an ECBRO story. You can find that on Tubi as well.
Okay, so, Elusive Legend. Yeah. Okay, got it.
I'm going to ask this question, and people are probably going to laugh at me, but this is just something I don't know, folks. I want to know. I'm interested in this. I want to know about the tones. You said every one of them have a different tone from what you researched. What should somebody look for when they are out in the woods and they do hear something that possibly could be Sasquatch or anything? Because I'm out in the woods, not a whole lot, but when I'm out in the woods, I'm out in the woods. I stay out there for the whole day when I'm out there, and I love being out there. But I want to know what specifically should somebody look for, because I know I've seen some stuff on documentaries that are just mind blowing. Because sometimes I think back and like, well, I don't know if I heard that or not, possibly. Because I do hear stuff when I'm out there. What's your opinion on that?
Well, here's the thing: when it comes to vocalizations, depending on your location in your area where you're hearing them, I'll use Virginia for example, especially here out in the mountains. Some vocals might sound deeper and heavier, bass, because vocals, when they bounce off of other ridge lines and down in the hollers and stuff, they're going to sound what appears to be more heavier with a bass tone. Then again, you might hear stuff that sounds like a yell or a scream, or in most cases, like a simple howl. Howls could be very controversial and debatable. What's that?
Kind of like a coyote that we have here in Easter. I mean, we got coyotes.
Right, yeah, and that, yeah, because coyotes, yeah, that's another thing. That's why I say, like, they could be very controversial and debatable on what you hear, because coyotes give off several tones. They're one of the species that will, they could sound like, we all know, a lot of people are familiar with the tones of a coyote, but they could sound a little deeper too sometimes. Depends on like where they're locating when they're vocaling. And I've heard some real close to my camp in the past, and being so close and the way they sound could be kind of slightly bone chilling, because they're that close, and and they sound deeper. It's unlike when a whole pack sounds off. They're like sound like a smaller dog, but some of them sound a lot larger. So, and again, if they're coming off of a mountain, their vocals bouncing off the other ridges. Owls sound bassy and heavier sometimes because of where they communicate from.
They're scary when you're out in the woods at night. When you're, God Almighty, they're scary as they can be.
Yes, indeed. But at the same time, they're cool though. They're so cool.
Yeah, especially when you're fishing out on the lake. You're fishing out on a lake on a boat, and you're out there, and you forget looking at the land, and all you hear the owl, and you're like, "What was that owl? What is that?" I'm just like,
oh yeah.
Just keep fishing. Just keep fishing.
Well, one other common vocal that we love to associate to Bigfoot, and I've experienced it on numerous occasions, and one of them was right there at camp. Back in 2013, I remember sitting there by the campfire, and probably less than 20, 30 yards, less than that, was 4 to 5 whoop, whoop, whoops, and like that there is exciting, because one thing I didn't really mention this, and I like to throw this out there, is when it comes to Bigfoot, and a lot of people don't agree to this, and that's totally okay, but I do a comparison to Bigfoot to our non-human primates, like chimpanzees, gorillas, baboons, and so forth. There's a lot of similarities between our known non-human primates to what Bigfoot does and what we associate to Bigfoot, because a lot of the behaviors and a lot of the findings that we associate to Bigfoot, our non-human primates are very common for doing these, and they're different vocals. So, so a lot of people like to point Bigfoot as being on the human side of things. Well, that's okay. I don't see nothing wrong with it, because to whatever you believe Bigfoot is, there is no wrong answer, because we have no factual information on that. So, but I like to do my comparisons with, non-human primates. So I do a lot of cross references on behaviors and characteristics and a lot of the findings, and again, the vocals. So a lot of it matches up and compares to our non-human primates.
I guarantee. Go ahead. I got something to say.
Oh no. Yeah. I was just gonna say, and I'm not saying that Bigfoot is a non-human primate. But then again, at the same time, I honestly believe he is some unclassified, undiscovered primate. Then again, I say that I'm very careful when I say that I'm not making him equal to a chimpanzee or orangutan or anything. But I believe he is something, because scientifically speaking, if you want to believe he's a human, well, then he is still a primate, because we're human primates according to science. So,
well,
I'm done rambling.
Jane Goodall has made a comment on that in the past, in past interviews, where when she was asked about, Bigfoot in North America, like she said, if it doesn't exist, I believe it's a class of primate. Like she was pretty forthright in a couple of interviews and stuff that she was a part of. So I think that's a pretty interesting perspective.
Absolutely. And she also states that it's very important that we still keep an open mind, regardless on where your stance is on the subject. So, absolutely.
So, I will tell you this right now. If me, Crit, and RhiAnna is out, or whoever I'm with is out in the woods, and I take a paddle and I do the knocking sound, because that interests me. I'm just like a paranormal stuff. It interests me. And I did paranormal for 6 to 7 years. But if I ever go out and try to get a Bigfoot to whoop back at me, and I get a whoop, I will never go back into the woods again. You will see dust flying when I leave. Dust will be flying. And I'm not taking no chances, because it could be up on top of the ridge looking at me. It could, hell, it could be following me out of there. And I've heard people say
you never know, John. It could be a Bigfoot, or it could be you stumbled into somebody's grow patch and they're trying to get you out of there.
That's very true. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I've had others with me where we've gotten return vocals from their vocals that they've done. And now, as far as tree knocks, I have gotten responses from my tree knocks, and I'm talking about during the daytime, not just at nighttime.
Wow.
But at daytime, yeah, I've actually went hiking up a couple ridges, and this is not far from my main camp area. But I'm hiking through the woods, and I'm actually with 2 other people. And by the time we get up to the second ridge and climbing it, we're all sitting down on the ground. We're resting, trying to catch our breath. And in my backpack, I keep a piece of wood in there for tree knocks, And I don't do them that often. I have a tendency to do them more at night, but just for shits and giggles, I said, guys, I'm going to do a tree knock. And they were sitting down behind me, and I stand up and I give off one big powerful whack on this pine tree. And pine trees, these bull pines, they give off a good bass. And then if you hit them the right way, you'll hear them really hard and heavy, So immediately after giving off the tree knock, looking back at the ridge we just came from, we get a response down to the left, and then that one knocks, and then that one got a response all the way up the ridge to the right. And I turn around and look at them. I said, "You guys hear this?" And I'm blown away, and I'm thinking about this too. I was like, "This is flipping awesome." And so it's I'm picking up, this is communication. This is okay, I'm here. They're all checking in, So, I mean, that's what I picked up from off of that particular moment. Maybe tree knocks mean something else. A lot of people believe they do. But I do believe it's a form of communication, unlike a lot of other vocals. So, go ahead.
I got one more question for Daniel here, Crit, and then we'll end the show, folks. I got to know, has there been an outing for you that's pushed you to your limits, maybe, that you're just like, you're getting so much good responses and things are going on around you that you had to push, you had to leave, you had to get out of there? Have you ever been to that point yet?
Oh, wait, back up a little bit. Part of that question got broke up.
Oh, the devil's the internet. So I tell you, devil is the internet.
It's
electronic devil. I'll tell you what, but have you, when you went out to do some research for Bigfoot, have you been pushed to your limits while you've been out on that said event? Have you been pushed to your limits as far as things going around you happening so quick that you knew it was Bigfoot, some type of cryptid, and you had to back out of there? Have you ever been pushed to your limit?
Not yet. let's just say I've had some very interesting moments. A couple of them that may have been slightly frightening when I've been by myself at nighttime, hearing things very close. And but no, nothing's kept me out. Nothing's ever run me off. Well, you know what? There was one time. Okay, there was a time I'm recalling. It was a new area that a friend of mine introduced me to. This was very close to the West Virginia line. Well, for the record, my main research area is close to the West Virginia area, but this was more in a deeper part of Virginia that bordered West Virginia. And he took me to this area, told me about the stories that he learned from other people, some incidents and whatnot. So we went camping there for the weekend, and it was pretty much just an overnight thing. Nothing happened while we were there. But the weekend after, I decided to go back out to that spot since I learned how to get there and everything. I really want to spend some good quality time here and explore and look around and see what I can find. And yes, this particular area, I actually found tracks not far from where I set up at. But at nighttime, the nighttime got very interesting because in this particular area, you're underneath some power lines that run through the woods out there. And my buddy Richard that took me there, he says he nicknamed it Whispering.
Uh-oh.
No,
it's the technological devil again.
Oh, we lost Daniel. There we go. He's coming back on here, I think. I heard oh, there we go. The devil,
all right.
The internet devil's got you.
All right.
Lord have mercy.
I don't know what part did you guys lose me at?
You wanted to do some quality time there researching.
Oh, yes. So yeah, I was at the camp area, and I did some exploring, and surprisingly, I did come across some interesting tracks there in some mud, and they had water standing in them. I didn't take no cast, but I did take pictures. But however, skipping forward to the nighttime, my buddy Richard that showed me that spot told me at nighttime it can be very eerie out there because of the power lines that run over top of you. You're down in this hollow, and the power lines, when the cool air sets in, it gets very foggy sometimes, depending on the cool air coming down to the low ground. Mm-hmm. And then you're hearing the power lines above you. They make their static sounds, and sometimes to him they sometimes sound like whispers. So he nicknamed it Whispering Hollow. And so I was there by myself, and I had a good setup there, and it was quiet. Nobody else around. There was no other campers because there's only a few other spots, but they're not in their area. So I'm sitting there one night, and all of a sudden, down to my left, behind me, was this loud, powerful tree break or crack that put me on edge because there was no wind. It was dead silent. And
wow.
Okay, so the first initial thought was a bear, because there's a lot of bears in the area. Because the night we camped there, we did hear a bear grunt not far off. So that's automatically what I'm thinking. There's a bear that's approaching my camp. So I take a couple of big buckets. I'm starting to make noise. That's what we did. So we're banging and thumping. And so I put the stuff down. I sit back down in my chair. And for the record, I had my sidearm next to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there. My heart rate's coming back down. And, probably about 10, 15 minutes later, it happens again. But this time directly behind my tent. Oh. And I jump up. I grab my sidearm. I grab my spotlight. And I don't know why, because it was so foggy in there. The spotlight, for one thing, it didn't shine that far. And on top of that, I didn't have it charged up enough because it kept dying on me. And I'm yelling. I'm like yelling, hey, who's there? And all of a sudden I was like, the spotlight wasn't working. I was trying to think fast. I said, you know what? I'm out of here. I grabbed all my most valuables, threw them in the vehicle, left the tent there, and drove all the way back up that mountain and back down on the other side and got out of there. And I was like, I didn't know. If you can't see what's around you that's doing that, I just didn't feel like I wanted to take that chance, But I came back about 2 weeks later to that location because I was like, I better go check to see if my tent's still there. And sure enough, my tent was still there, untouched and everything. So,
Hey,
but that goes to show you how many people go back there. But
they are spirits that watch these lands. I fully believe that. So that could have been something along those lines. So
And let me just say,
very possible.
I applaud the fact that you actually had a sidearm, because I watch so many of these documentaries and stuff, and I'm like, for one, I'm from Kentucky. We don't go out in the woods unless we're packing, honey, because you don't know what you're going to come across.
Right.
yeah, BB gun or 20 gauge or something other.
And if
Yeah,
you're going to be traipsing around in the middle of the night and you don't have any form of protection, I'm like, you're just asking for it. Like, just don't do that.
Right. And it's funny. I've heard people tell me, well, Bigfoot's not going to hurt you. Bigfoot's not going to bother. Well, it's not Bigfoot. You can't forget about all the other predators that are out there. I mean, there's bears, there's mountain lions, so, and anything else that could prance and because there's a lot of stalking type predators out there there are a lot of them are opportunists, so you just don't want to take that chance, so
Daniel,
you got to be prepared for anything.
How can folks stay in touch with you if they need to reach out to you, your documentaries, all this stuff? Because, I mean, you and your girlfriend are in a documentary they're featured in, and plus all this other stuff that you're working on. How can they do that, sir?
And I think you said you had a book as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually have a few, but my latest book is it's called Wildlife and Bigfoot Field Guide and an Objective View. And you could actually find that on lulu.com, LULU.com. Yeah, that's a lot of people like that. And I've been telling people, if you buy that book now and come out to our event that we're hosting June 18th right here in Virginia for our annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference. Yeah, that's happening June 18th at the Holiday Inn and Conference Center in Stanton, Virginia, right off of Interstate 81. Information about that event can be found at www.vabigfootcon.com. We have a Facebook event page for that, the ECBRO Annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference. I'm not hard to find. You can email me, ecbro98@gmail.com. Everything, any news, the latest information I post on my personal timeline. I have a ECBRO fan page. I have a public figure page under my name, Daniel J. Benoit. You can find me there. Message me on any of those platforms. I'm on Twitter as Daniel Benoit, ECBRO98. I'm on Instagram. And I try to stay active and keep updated on all those platforms. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like I said, the event coming up right here in Virginia, June 18th. We got a couple other interesting things coming up too. We host 2 events every year here in Virginia. So we have the June event, and then we have our October 8th event that's here in Virginia as well. So I post all these events. I try to keep a lot of information about them on my timeline as well, because I post from out of the event pages and I share everywhere. And then another thing that's happening in September, a real good friend of ours is hosting another Virginia event. It's the Southwest Virginia Bigfoot and Friends event. It's going to feature all kinds of cryptids and paranormal, and he's doing a real great job putting that together. And you can find information on that under cryptidhq.com. So that's going to be happening, and we're speaking at that event, and we're also participating and helping out with that event as well. So, but yeah, Mike Hughes is the one that's behind that, and he's doing a phenomenal job on that. He's got contests he's running right now for that. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's so much more. And there's an event that's happening close to you guys, East Tennessee, August 27th in East Tennessee. In Morristown, Tennessee, at Cherokee Park is the East Tennessee Bigfoot Festival.
Morristown, that's where my sister lives. How cool is that? Like, I could totally just like crash on her couch.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Morristown, Tennessee, at Cherokee Park. It's going to be huge. They're going to have a big car and truck show. They got the whole entire park. The whole entire park is going to be for the event. They got live music. They got several guest speakers. I'll be speaking to that event. They have all kinds of celebrities. Everybody loves Turtle Man. He's going to be there. So,
Oh my God.
And,
Live action.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So there's so much going on. I also post these events in my personal event website. If you go under the section other upcoming events, I need to go through there and update that. But so there's all kinds of information you guys can find on the event website. So again, that's www.vabigfootcon.com.
We need to invite you over to do a paranormal investigation with us. To do a little, a little different.
I've never done one, but I'll be all for it. So
yeah, we may hook you up with that. Come over and do an investigation with us. We'll be doing a live podcast here from 2 locations. So
yeah, I'm not scared of no ghost.
Zach also mentioned in the chat to be sure to check out the movie coming soon. SIMH and ECBRO Hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch.
Yes, that's a documentary.
Coming soon to Tubi and DVD. The movie features Zach D, Ben Bishop, Stacy Collin, and Daniel Benoit.
And John DeBodge. John DeBodge got the most important person in the
dust.
Me.
John DeBodge.
There you go.
Form after he's heard something and he's skedaddled.
I'm gone. Sasquatch and me. Nay. Watch the finger. Nay. No.
Hey.
Ghost, yes.
And one other thing I want to throw out there before it's too late is if you guys want to shop and find some of the coolest Bigfoot merchandise, apparel, and all kinds of cool gear.
Yes, please.
You got to go to brokenbranchdesignsllc.com. Again, that's brokenbranchdesignsllc.com. And that's everything Sasquatch. I mean, you'll find shower curtains, everything from the bathroom to the outside, and clothes, socks, you name it, it's probably there. So, yeah, and that is my girlfriend Jessica Moore's business. So, yeah.
Oh, girl, I'm definitely going to support it if it's a woman-owned business too. I'm all for that, lady power.
Well, and for the record, her brother, all the artwork on everything they have, her brother Jeff is the designer and the artist behind everything on there. So. Yeah, shout out to Jeff Mora. Yeah.
Critty's got the biggest smile on her face right now when you mention like all things Bigfoot. She just like, yeah.
I can add stuff to my little creepy layer here. I realized that earlier. I was like, oh my God, I don't have anything Bigfoot on the wall. What is going on? So
absolutely.
That'll be my hookup.
Folks, please subscribe to our YouTube page. It's very simple. Just look up Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. I'll even put the link up on Beyond the Paranormal Podcast Facebook page. And please like the Facebook page. It just takes 2 seconds. Please support us because we support a lot of people. And we need that love back to us as well. So
John will eat a bologna sandwich with you guys.
I'm telling you, there you go, Daniel. You come over to a ghost hunt with us. I'll eat a bologna sandwich live on the podcast with you.
Yeah, you guys are been a lot of fun. You guys are awesome hosts. I definitely have to have you on my YouTube channel one night. Yeah. So
love that.
Yeah, check that out. It's Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO. So.
And the next time I go live, I'm turning that other group that I'm part of off because I don't want these messages coming on here. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, my God. But, hey,
thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much. You've been a hoot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
Also, next week, we have another member of ECBRO coming on here. Daniel's buddy, Zach Sterrick's going to be on here next Tuesday. I think Zach may have forgot about that, possibly.
Very awesome.
So we'll have more squatching to talk about next Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to all this. And
yeah, Zach, I'm going to tell you guys, I'll give you a heads up about Zach. He is a cryptid encyclopedia. He studied all kinds of different legends of cryptids, and he could tell you some stories. He's got his own experiences. You're in for a great show when it comes to Zach.
Well, if he's got stories, then I'm going to have a pajama party, have my popcorn. I'm ready to go, honey. Let's do it.
Next Tuesday, Critina's taking over Beyond the Paranormal Podcast. I am done for the day. So,
all right.
I got to have my bro. I gotta have my bro.
Well, I'll eat my bologna sandwich, and you can ask my questions every now and again, and I'll just kick back and relax. It's all about the bologna sandwich, guys. All about the bologna sandwiches. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate each and every single one of you guys and gals who came in here to the chat room to talk to Daniel and talk to us and ask all these questions. These are great questions. Thank you all for the participation, because this is what it's about. It's about branching out and having everybody to feel like a home when you come in here. You know, you can ask questions, be part of this podcast, and don't feel like you're getting left out, because I've watched many podcasts where people ask questions and a lot of people gets left out and they only answer certain people over and over and over. So, and it drives them out the wall. So that's not what we're here for. If you put a question here or a comment, we will get to it. You will not be overlooked. Trust me. All right, I'm off my little pedestal. But anyway, thank you, Daniel, so much for being on here, man. And we will definitely get together and do something live with you, man, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much. I really appreciate everything, guys. It's been a pleasure, for real. So,
all right, folks, we will see you next Tuesday. Same creepy time, same creepy channel, and same creepy ding-dongs that you hear every now and I'll try to fix that for next Saturday. Anyway, thanks, guys and gals. See y'all later.
Bye.